I just gave a speech on this topic last week in my work for Catholic Vote. So Trump carried Catholics by 12% nationally this time, and he tied among Catholics against Joe Biden. So one of the key reasons he did not win, that he was not already president in 2020, is because he tied. Now, Joe Biden, of course, presented himself as a Catholic president, as a Catholic candidate. I think it's a bunch of baloney, right? But nevertheless, it worked with a lot of Catholics. Trump won Catholics by +8 in 2016, tied in 2020, +12 this time. So the reason that he won the national popular vote is Catholics coming his way. Catholics are sort of the swingiest vote and also just a giant cohort. There's over 50 million Catholics in America. So I would say Catholics have moved way more toward Trump than they are toward Colbert.
But here's a question. Can you be pro-choice and be Catholic?
No, not legitimately.
So
no.
The point that he's making when he says Catholics are closer to Colbert, they're not Catholics.
People who identify themselves as Catholic,
Right.
you know, I think we get into like murky territory where we're judging. I'm not one to judge if somebody is
who's authentically.
and you were careful with your language there. Speaking about Joe Biden's religion, you said like what was it? Not pretending, but
He
not
presented himself.
presented.
Yeah.
That was the word you used.
Yeah.
Presented as Catholic. Do you not believe that? I don't know that he is truly, because I mean, I'm even looking at Stephen Colbert when he had the cross for Ash Wednesday. It is. So like, I feel like the average person who believes themselves to be Catholic in this country is pro-choice.
Okay, yes, this is an important distinction. So, by the way, those numbers I just gave you are people who identify as Catholic. And that, again, that's from the Pew Validated Voter Survey. So that's people who identify as Catholic. Trump was +12, right? That is not any reflection on whether or not they practice what they actually believe, right? That's not judging their Catholicism. It's just saying, do you identify as Catholic? That's it. Trump won +12, won overwhelmingly. If you then break it down to practicing Catholics and say, okay, do you go to church at least twice a month? Or do you believe in certain issues? Well, then Trump's percentages shoot into, I mean, he's literally in the 80s or even 90s. You know, then they poll and vote a lot more like evangelicals do, you know, frankly. So when there's a big difference between sort of cultural Catholics who identify as Catholic but don't necessarily practice the faith, and then actual practicing Catholics, and they obviously vote very differently. But the point is, when we group them all together, they have massively moved toward Trump, toward America First, and by the way, also on immigration, because the Catholic bishops have been very, very anti-Trump, very pro-illegal migrant. The Catholics in the pews simply don't believe that. I mean, again, just the election last November, but also all the polling shows that. So it's a significant issue, and it's a fascinating issue. But when people like Colbert and Joe Biden try to wear their Catholicism on their sleeve, I think believing Catholics recognize immediately it's complete hypocrisy. It's not genuine. It's not accurate. And they're trying to do it for either political or media benefits, not from their heart.
If I could have one follow-up on the Catholicism issue, because I do think this is really important, how it manifests in our country. And as I understand it, because again, I'm Jewish, so I'm 1,000 miles away from this, there seems to be a disconnect between global Catholicism and the Catholic Church, and like those at the top, compared to those in America. I don't know, is there a unique brand? Do you feel as though there's a unique brand of American Catholicism, or does it manifest differently than the ways it manifests in South America, or even, I don't know, out in Italy at the Vatican, and how the Pope speaks about these issues? Because writ large, as I understand them, very pro-immigrant sentiment. And, you know, and that's different, as I understand, American Catholics believing as that manifests. So I don't know. Does that make sense there? And
yeah, no,
observing a real phenomena?
No, it's an excellent look. When you're talking about a faith with over 1 billion adherents that's truly global, of course, there's a massive amount of diversity and complexity, and a lot of it's geographic. The American, practicing American Catholics politically are definitely to the right of most of the hierarchy in Rome. I mean, like, that's just a fair, objective statement to observe. But it's also fascinating that we now have an American Pope, right, for the first time ever, which I think most American Catholics, most Americans, period, thought was an impossibility, thought could never happen. And he doesn't exactly seem to be right-wing, or I wouldn't call him conservative, but compared to Francis, massively so, right? And certainly not anti-American in any sense. You know, somebody who came from Chicago, who came from the United States, and loves this country. So it's an interesting moment. And when you have an American Pope, and you have at least the potential for J.D. Vance, our deeply Catholic vice president, to become the president of the United States, perhaps, coming up, it's interesting. There's an American Catholic moment that's pretty historic.
Catholics have come a long way in our country.
Yeah.
Maybe because, I don't know, the history of Catholics here, they used to be persecuted here, so obviously came a long way.
Yeah.
Sorry for you with this. We were pivoted hard there, but...
Yep. Anyway, Stephen Colbert, wow, he's crazy.
Crazy Catholic.
Well, I mean, he's just
Certainly not.
I don't think he's. I mean, you were talking about earlier not judging someone, judging what they believe in their heart and stuff. Look, if you're gonna say you're a Catholic, but you don't do the things the Catholics do, then you're not a Catholic. People should be judged by their works, not by their words. It's very easy to give lip service to whatever it is, to a religion or what have you, or to an ideology. But what people do is what they really believe. And if you are voting for people because you think that it's important for abortion to be legal, that is not a Catholic.
Thanks for checking out this clip from Timcast IRL. Make sure to watch the show live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Subscribe to this channel, and we will see you all there.